began to understand the kind of evil that governs Nigeria, and I realized very quickly that protests are a waste of time. Nigeria can only change when the people come to the knowledge of the fact that we have to confront this system head on. The one thing we must not do is confront it with violence. So long ago, in my own head, and I laid it out in the imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution, a line was drawn in the sand. And that line was the point where the court of justice would be completely unveiled to the people, where they come to the knowledge of the fact that what they believe to be the last hope of the common man is indeed completely hopeless. Now, I've been telling all of you for years about the uselessness of the Nigerian judiciary. Even when I was being tried within that judiciary, I never came to the public space to talk about it. But I kept saying that the judiciary is completely useless and unfit for purpose. Over the years, this judiciary has proven itself in the past. It was the bastion of freedom and justice during the military era. You had judges and justices interpreting the law as it should be. They were brave in declaring the rights of men, and they struck down the strongholds of technicalities because they understood the fact that behind technicalities were hiding the lies of injustice. Tyranny, impunity were hiding behind technicalities. So, what the justices of the highest courts of Nigeria did in those days was that they established very strong parameters for the protection of human rights, even though it was during the years of the military. The judiciary was largely appointed up until today by the executive. In those days, it was the military, by military fiat. But even they appointed judges and justices to serve the cause of justice to a very large extent. When they didn't want justice done, they simply promulgated ouster clauses to make sure that they took away the powers of the justices to do justice. But now we have a democracy. And in the last 24 years of this, our nascent democracy, we have found ourselves in a situation where a most rapacious executive has proceeded to make the judiciary in its own image. This is what the like of us had known and were complaining about for years. But much as we might complain, nothing changed. And as the years have progressed, I have laughed when they say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. I laugh because I know as a fact that the Nigerian judiciary is no different from the Nigerian police. It is no different from INEC. There is nothing different between the Nigerian judiciary and any other strata of the society that we have built. It is delusional in the extreme to imagine that we have built this paradise of angels and our judiciary is somehow peopled by people different from us. So our judiciary is us. But Nigeria is in a moment in time where it is being confronted with the truth of its abject nudity. This is where we begin to tie it together. If you say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, it then means that for you to be able to preserve the illusion of a democracy, justice must be seen to be done. So this is the part where we now begin to connect with certain influences and influencers. Just before the release of the judgment of the PAPT, a woman who has been variously alleged to be the conduit for corruption in the judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court, sat at a private event praising the legal dexterity of Tinubu's legal team at the tribunal, threatening fire and brimstone and telling all of us about just exactly how we must accept whatever the pronouncement of the PAPT might be. Let me tell you something. The problem with the man that the system has coalesced around this time around is that in order to preserve the life of a Tinubu presidency, the existing legal order would have to be destroyed by the judiciary. I will explain myself. There are multiple inconsistencies that cannot be consistent either with common sense or law that would have to be upheld by the judiciary before it might uphold the lives of Mahmoud and INEC. So, when the last hope of the common man is lost, what is the common man to do? These are the delegitimization of grievances. And it deodorizes fascism because the true fascists are given free passes, whilst the victims are labeled. And these labels are coming from no less than a person unto whom we would have looked, not only for guidance, but for the truth. And these are not truths. They are obvious misstatements of facts. The Nigerian Supreme Court, in a precedent it demanded must not be used under the doctrine of stare decisis, which means that the judgment of the upper court must bind the lower court. That court, at that time, declared that the decision that 2/3 of 19 states was, I think, 12 to 3rd or some ingenious fraud or the other, but it declared that it must not be used as a precedent in future. Is the Supreme Court being prepped for something similar by those who will seek to delegitimize the victory of the obedient movement? Not Peter Obi, it is the obedient movement. Peter Obi being merely our totem. Is it that we are being prepared for the marketing that the Tinubu government is already seeking to do, to claim that this is all about Peter Obi, the Igbos, and IPOB? No. This is about hope. This is about tomorrow. This is about the judiciary interpreting the laws as imperfect as they are. The 1999 Constitution is a fraud. I was one of the first to start yelling about it in recent times. A fraud. Decree 24 of 1999 is a fraud. We've said so repeatedly. Now, if it has run its course, and the judiciary must understand that it has run its course, then let the judiciary pronounce it so. But to continue to presume, to believe that the existing legal order, which has declared very clearly, copiously, the status of Abuja, the issue with forfeiture, the sacrosancy of Beavers and his application, and numerous other grounds upon which many other lawyers who care to practice will proceed before the Supreme Court. Let it be known that it will be the Nigerian judiciary that would terminate the existing legal order by its refusal to uphold the law. Did we just have an election? If we did a winner truly emerge based unclear mandate. If one has emerged in your own view, ask yourself the parameters of truth by which you have measured. What tainted your stream to the point where you could deodorize a lie? Let's be clear. Tinubu is a lie. Everything about Tinubu is a lie. And everyone who would deign to cloak him would have to unveil themselves. You would have to uncloak yourself to cover Tinubu. And everyone who would presume to do so would only find that their own cloak of honor will be shed for nothing, because the lie that he is cannot be sustained. That is the reality of Tinubu. If the judiciary presumes to believe that it can legitimize what is essentially a lie, what will simply happen is that the last vestige of honor that might be presumed to the court, it will have to dip it in the soil and then wear it upon a man it will not fit. And then it itself will be completely naked. The judiciary is the last hope of the common man, or whether it is the proof of the hopelessness of the Nigerian situation. When hope is snatched, what usually happens is that the hopeless becomes violent. I'm not a protester. I have no interest in protests. I'm interested in birthing a new system, a new country. I disavow violence and I have no portion in it. But there is a line that must be drawn at some point where sanity is established. That will be dependent on how receptive you are to evil and how ready you are to fight against it.